Let's move on now to some other news of the day. Roger Cook is expected to become the next Premier of Western Australia following Mark McGowan's resignation earlier this week. Mr Cook expressed his formal interest in the role yesterday ahead of next Tuesday's caucus meeting.
I've been a central part of our leadership team for the past 6 years since we were elected to government. In fact, I've been deputy leader of the party for the past 15 years. I'm ready to lead. I'm ready to be Premier.
And joining us now with some more analysis of the situation is Paul Garvey, who's been writing on this move in WA politics this week for the Australian newspaper. Good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Now, around town here in Perth, Roger Cook's known as a pretty nice guy, amiable fellow, gets along with most. But you wrote in the Australian today that some within the union movement feel betrayed by him. Did he get his hands dirty over the last couple of days?
He certainly did. And as you say, it wasn't what people necessarily associate with Roger. He was always the nice guy, the loyal deputy, a safe pair of hands to be the backup guy to cut the ribbons and kiss the babies when it was needed, right? And a lot of people did not see him as having the killer instinct to really, do the hard yards to stab people in the backs when they needed to be stabbed, to actually go up to that leadership level. And he's certainly proven that this week. And it's going to be a real challenge for Roger from here because he now has to lead with some very disgruntled union backers asking what happened, why he did what he did, and looking for their retribution. And so it's going to be a real challenge for him to keep that party united to the same degree that Mark McGowan managed so well over his time in charge.
Because Mark McGowan obviously demanded that sort of respect and that sort of unity among his team after that landslide win at the last state election. Roger Cook, as you say, might have a bit more of a challenge on that front. What sort of Premier, though, do you think more broadly he's going to be?
Look, I think he's certainly seen closer than perhaps anyone what a good Premier looks like or what a popular Premier looks like in Mark McGowan. So it was no surprise to hear one of the first things Roger said in his press conference yesterday was that he'd be fighting tooth and nail for GST. I mean, there's no easier vote winner in Western Australia than to say you're going to go hard on keeping the GST share. He is stressing repeatedly unity and continuity. The continuity part, I think, will be easier to deliver than the unity part, given the nature of how he actually came to the premiership. But I think he has also shown a strong interest in Indigenous affairs, in being a strong advocate for the voice. He has a long history, both in politics and in the private sector, in Aboriginal affairs. He'll be a strong advocate for that. There will be pressure from the unions, coming back to those guys. They've been pushing for years unsuccessfully under McGowan for better pay deals. Given the nature of the way that Roger Cook came to the premiership, those unions will definitely be pushing for some payback for their workers in terms of better deals and so on. So McGowan's fiscal discipline has been a key part of his success. Roger will know that should be delivered, but whether he can maintain that or not is going to be the big question.
Because we have really seen a rebalancing over the last couple of days in terms of the power of those different unions involved. I mean, if anyone needed a reminder about how critical the union movement is to the Labor government, this was it.
Yeah, and it was quite striking. It reminded us just how well McGowan's done in keeping those at bay for so long. And seeing this actually play out was quite jarring, I think, for a lot of people. The sight of a select group of Labor MPs converging in a union office in the city to decide the next Premier, it's not a good look. And I know amongst other Labor MPs who weren't at that meeting that they were watching their TVs and seeing that footage and reading the news stories, and they were shocked by the optics of how this played out. We expect better from our democratic institutions, and sometimes seeing how the sausage is made is pretty jarring. But in the case of Amber-Jade Sanderson and her push to become Premier, the sight of her walking out after this sort of papal-style selection process inside the union headquarters, I think it stirred some action to go, look, is this right? Is she the best person? And I don't know if Roger would have necessarily succeeded if it wasn't for the optics around how that was handled on the Tuesday morning with the unions getting involved in that process. And, the key part of this, and it's getting a bit into the weeds, but, the Miscellaneous Workers Union, the MISOs, have always been the dominant union force inside Labor in WA. They really expected that the metal workers, the AMWU, would fall in line behind their person. They selected Amber-Jade. They genuinely believed that Roger would stand aside to give Amber-Jade a clear run at that. Roger wasn't happy to let it go. There was enough of a movement in the rest of the party that they wanted someone other than Amber-Jade, and here we are with Roger Cook as perhaps an unlikely premier.